it over to Stash.
Okay, thank you, Christy. I'm going to
This
call.
meeting is being recorded.
Okay, great. Thank you, Annie. Yeah, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're at the agenda change request. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Alaska Board of Game meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 1:50 p.m. today, Thursday, November 21st, 2024. And we should have 6 board members present. Do we, Christy? Okay. I assume we have 6 board members present. So I'm going to move over to the introductions of board members and staff before we get started with the business items on the agenda. I'd like to ask board members and staff to introduce themselves. Right now, I'd like to start off with Mr. Al Brett.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my name is Al Brett. I reside in Fairbanks.
Dave.
My name is David Loring. I also reside in Fairbanks.
Thank you, David. Jake.
Hey,
Which
thanks,
one?
Mr. Chair. Jake Fletcher. Oh, yeah, I guess I jumped in. Sorry about that. Jake Fletcher from Talkeetna. We're going to get that a lot. Maybe I should just be Fletch, maybe.
Thank you, Jake. And now let's move to our 2 new board members. Welcome to the Alaska Board of Game and Jake Gardner.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, Jake Garner, currently reside in Anchorage, Alaska.
Thank you, Jake. Welcome to the Board of Game. And Jim.
Yeah, I'm Jim Bechtel. I currently reside in Thorn Bay, Alaska, on Prince of Wales Island.
Thank you, Jim and Jake. Welcome to the Board of Game. We're pleased to have you on board and look forward to working with you too. Unfortunately, we have member Ruth Cusack who's absent today. She's not able to join us, and we wish her well. She's recovering from a medical problem, so we wish her well, and hopefully she'll be back with us for the next meeting. Now let's move to staff introductions. Let's have our agency representatives introduce themselves and their staff. Let's start with Mr. Doug Vincent Lang.
Yeah, good morning. Good afternoon. I'm Doug Vincent Lang, Commissioner, Alaska Department of Fish and Game, and I'm going to pass the mic over to Ryan Scott.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board and members of the public listening in. My name is Ryan Scott. I'm the director of the Division of Wildlife Conservation. We do have several staff members here that I'd like to introduce. First, we have Natalie Weber. She's our regulations program coordinator. The world would cease to end or cease to function if she wasn't here with us. We have Lincoln Perrette, the Region 3 Interior Regional Supervisor, as well as Jason Sikoski, the Region 3 Interior Management Coordinator, and then Tony Gorn, our Region 5 Western Alaska and Northwest Arctic Regional Supervisor. Thanks for having us.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Amy, are you online?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Amy Wida, the head of subsistence, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Christy?
Yes. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Christy Tibbles. I'm the board's executive director based out of Juneau, and I just want to introduce board support staff helping us out today. Savannah Hollingworth from Bethel and Annie Bartholomew from Juneau. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Christy. Cheryl?
Hello, everyone. I'm Cheryl Brooking with the Department of Law, and I'm in Juneau. I'm sorry, I'm in Anchorage today. I'm in Anchorage.
Thank you, Cheryl. Major Frenzel?
Good afternoon. I'm Aaron Frenzel, the Deputy Director of Alaska.
Thank you, Aaron. And do we have our OSM representative, George Pappas, online?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. George Pappas, Office of Subsistence Management, State Subsistence Liaison, housed in the Secretary of Interior's Office, Policy Management and Budget Division. Thank you. Good to hear you.
Thank you, George. Good afternoon. And is there anyone else online that I didn't catch or have that's on that can introduce themselves? Okay, I don't hear anybody. Before we get started, there's a couple of housekeeping and process items that I need to go over. To start, I'd like to clarify for the board and the public that the process for this change in officers, as you may know, Jerry was the board chair, but no longer serves on the board. As vice chair, I assume the duties of chair until the board holds officer elections at the work session in the upcoming meeting in January. That leaves the role of vice chair vacant, and at this time, I'd like to declare or request that member Fletcher to take the role. And Jake, do you accept?
Yes, sir. If there's no objections from other board members.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. And so thank you for agreeing to take this role. So that would mean Jake will be doing the motions, seconding the motions, and taking care of the vice chair duties since he's been appointed. So hearing no objections, I'd like to continue. With regards to the Zoom meeting, I'd like to ask the board members and staff to please try and stay muted when not speaking, and then remember to take yourself off mute when needed. If you need to speak, I encourage you to use Zoom's hand raising feature, and Christy will help make sure that we catch this, that if it happens. And also you can ask to speak if you have been called on, just kind of speak up and chime in if you don't mind. Purpose of the meeting. The purpose of the board meeting is to address 9 agenda change requests, which are known as ACRs, that were submitted by the November 1st deadline for the January and March 2025 meetings. The meeting is open to the public via live stream on the board's website at www.boardofgame.adfag.alaska.gov. The audio will also be available after the meeting for those of you who are unable to listen live. The board will not be taking public oral testimony during the teleconference. However, we did solicit written comments, which are part of the board meeting record. All meeting documents including the agenda, notice, ACRs, department comments, the board's ACR policy, and the public and advisory committee comments are posted on the meeting website. Ethic disclosures for this meeting. Since the board will not be taking regulatory action, board members are not expected to provide a full ethics disclosure statement. However, if any board members has personal or financial interests that may be affected by the topic to be discussed at this meeting today, please indicate to me at this time. Okay, not hearing any. Moving on to the second item for agenda change requests. Board members, we're ready to go through the agenda change request. For each ACR, the board will need to decide whether it meets the criteria under the board's ACR policy 5 AAC 92.005. And for any that are, if accepted, the board will decide at which meeting to schedule the topic for, and then a proposal will be developed for that meeting based on information submitted from the ACR form. Before we get started, I'd like to read into the record for the listening public and to remind the board members that the criteria established in the policy. The board will accept an agenda change request only, number 1, to correct an error in regulation, 2, to correct an effect of a regulation that was unforeseen when regulation was adopted, number 3, if the request identifies a biological concern for the population or a threat to meeting objectives for the population. Number 4, if the request identifies an unforeseen, unexpected event or effect that would otherwise restrict or reduce a reasonable opportunity for customary and traditional wildlife uses as defined in AS 16.05.258 F as in Frank. Or number 5, if the request identifies an unforeseen, unexpected resource situation where a biologically allowable resource harvest would be precluded by delayed regulatory action, and such delay would be significantly burdensome because the resource would be unavailable in the future. In addition to the criteria, the policy also states the board may change the board's schedule for consideration of proposed regulatory changes as reasonably necessary for coordination of state regulatory actions with federal agencies, programs, or laws. An agenda change request is not intended to address proposals that could have been submitted by the deadline for submitting proposals. The board will not accept an agenda change request that is predominantly allocative in nature in the absence of new information that is found by the board to be compelling. It also states that if the board accepts an agenda change request, the board will develop and consider proposals for all agenda change requests for those specified regulations. unless there are any process questions before we start, are we ready for a motion to accept ACR number 1? For each ACR that is accepted by the board, we will need a motion for which the meeting to schedule it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I move to accept ACR 1?
Second.
Okay, motion number 1 has been moved and seconded. Mr. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will be splitting this up today. I'll be doing a few, and then Natalie will take on a few, and then I'll come back and wrap them up. Agenda change request number 1 has been submitted to the Alaska Board of Game requesting changes to 5 AAC 84.270 Section 9. The proponent is asking the board to close river otter trapping in units 14A, 14B, and 16. This would mean that there would be no trapping season for river otter in these units, and trappers would lose the opportunity to harvest that fur bearer species. With respect to the board's ACR acceptance criteria, the department is unaware of any error in regulation. The department is unaware of any effects of regulations that were unforeseen when the regulation was adopted. The department is unaware of any biological concerns. The ACR will restrict or reduce reasonable opportunity for customary and traditional wildlife uses as defined in Alaska Statute 16.05.258, paragraph F, in a portion of Unit 16. The department is unaware of any unexpected resource situation that would cause a biologically allowable resource harvest to be precluded by delayed regulatory action. The request will close trapping for river otters in 14A, 14B, and 16. Units 14A, 14B, and a portion of Unit 16 are located within the Alaska Mat-Su-Kenai non-subsistence area. The portion of Unit 16 outside the non-subsistence area does not have a positive customary and traditional use finding, but does have an ANS for subsistence of 90% of the allowable harvest. The next regularly scheduled Board of Game meeting for the Central and Southwest region is during winter spring 2027-2028. That is inaccurate. My apologies. Winter spring of 2025. If the board accepts this ACR, the department recommends the proposal come before the board at its January meeting in Wasilla to allow for public input by those most affected by the issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Board discussion specific to this policy, but not the issue, please.
Mr. Chairman, I see that Division of Subsistence has something to add to the reading as well.
Amy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Scott. I just wanted to make a brief correction. There is a positive customary and traditional use finding, I believe. It was stated that there is not, and it's the Anchorage Mat-Su-Kenai non-subsistence area. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Amy. Al Brett?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of concur with the department's analogy of it doesn't meet any of the 6 criteria. I would also add to the record that, this proposal could have been submitted on time for the meeting coming up in January for the South Central meeting area.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Thank you. Christy, Dave, go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I agree with the department's analysis of this also. It's a pretty interesting issue, and I know we have an issue with pike, of course, but I think we can wait until the next scheduled meeting when this would be heard to address these issues. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And Christy, do you have any hands up? My screen doesn't show everybody.
I'm not seeing any others.
Call the question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, a roll call to accept the, well, the question's been called. Christy, can we poll the board's members?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on the motion to accept ACR number 1, we'll start with Member Barrett.
No.
Member Loring.
No.
Member Fletcher.
Yes.
Member Garner,
That me?
correct.
I didn't know. It's scrambled.
Just, I'm not sure I heard that correctly. Is that no?
No.
Thank you. And Chairman Hoffman?
Yeah, Christie, I vote no. And yeah, when you were talking there, we lost you for a second. So that's why we had a little bit of confusion, but I vote no.
So hopefully you all can hear me all right. That motion fails by a vote of, did I get Mr. Batesdale in there?
Not yet.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, our new member, Mr. Batesdale.
No.
No, thank you. Okay, so that motion fails of 1 yay to 5 nays.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept ACR 2 award DI 403 and DI 404 permit recipients whose tags were canceled on the July 24th, 2024, the same hunting permits for an upcoming season, and develop a plan with ADF&G to ensure the late season changes do not impact hunters.
Second.
Okay, motion's been carried. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. An agenda change request, ACR 2, has been submitted to the Alaska Board of Game requesting changes to 5 AAC 92.050, paragraph A, required permit hunt conditions and procedures. The ACR asks the board to allow the transfer of revoked Delta bison drawing permits from regulatory year 24 to a future year. With respect to the board's agenda change request acceptance criteria, the department is unaware of any error in regulation. The department is unaware of any effects of regulations that were unforeseen when the regulation was adopted. Applicants are warned that hunts could be eliminated and that application fees may not be refunded. However, the Delta bison hunt is unique in that it is a highly sought after hunt and has an accompanying bison-specific once-in-a-lifetime and once every 10-year eligibility restriction for non-residents and residents, respectively. The department is unaware of any biological concern associated with the acceptance of this ACR. The ACR was submitted because the department revoked permits that had been awarded to prevent conservation concerns from occurring. Due to the timing of bison surveys and the attempt to manage the population within a very narrow window of abundance, the department announced more permit winners that was determined to be sustainable once surveys were completed. In addition, a significant natural mortality event occurred in spring of 2024, further limiting available bison. High success rates and a need to spread winners out over the entire length of the season prevented the department from simply implementing a quota to limit harvest for the hunts. The department is unaware of any unforeseen or unexpected events that would otherwise restrict or reduce a reasonable opportunity for customary and traditional wildlife uses as defined in Alaska Statute 16.05.258, paragraph F. The department is unaware of any unexpected resource situation that would cause a biologically allowable resource harvest to be precluded by delayed regulatory action. The requested change will allow permit winners who were originally announced as winners but had their permits revoked due to conservation concerns the ability to hunt in the future. The next regularly scheduled board meeting for statewide regulations is during winter spring of 2027-2028. If the board accepts this ACR, the department recommends the proposal come before the board at its statewide meeting in March 2025 to allow for public input. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ryan. Board members? Al?
Scott, can I say something real quick? This is Doug Vincent, Commissioner of Fish and Game.
Okay,
Of all these agenda change requests that have come, that I've heard about at my desk, this is probably one of the leading ones. This is a very cherished permit, and when you get drawn and then we call back and tell the individual that, no, you're off the list and you're not going to qualify because we don't have enough animals in the landscape, and then basically they're off the list for drawing for the next 10 years. That's kind of a tough pill to swallow. So, when you have these agenda change requests aren't really kind of written around these kinds of circumstances and how you deal with them. But just from what I'm hearing across my desk, this is an issue that's heartfelt by those people that we had to call and say, you're no longer eligible and you can't even get back into the drawing permit for the next 10 years. So I just want to put that on the record. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Al?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just asked the department a question. When was the deadline for submission for statewide proposals? I forgot to look that up.
Through the chair, Member Barrett, the deadline was May 1st.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just continue on if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this was another very unfortunate event that happened. Nothing that anybody could do or address. This is an allocative issue in my eyes, and it doesn't meet any of the 6 criteria. I think when we end up, well, I won't talk on that. So I won't support the ACR as it doesn't meet the policy and it's allocated. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Al. Chris, do you have any hands up?
Not seeing any others, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, board members are thinking, I'm going to add my 2 cents here. I will be, I think it does meet it. It may not fit in these categories exactly the way we want them to be, but this is like the commissioner stated, it's something we really haven't dealt with before, and some of the nuances he spoke of, like 10 years, and people wait a long time to get these, so or never. So with that, I think I would be in support of this. Any other board members? Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my wife and I are one of those folks that have been putting in for 50 years and never been drawn, so we know how important it is for those folks that did win finally to have that opportunity. And then although the ACR doesn't hit directly the nail on the head as far as meeting all the or any of the requirements for the ACR, I really think that we need to fix this problem. There's lots of different ways of handling it that I think can be fleshed out at when it's heard in front of the board, the full board. And so I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Dave. Okay.
Stops Jake.
Oh, go ahead.
Jake, sorry, Member Fletcher has his hand up.
Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to kind of echo Member Loring's thoughts there. We accepted an ACR last year in regards to public safety and muskox that isn't directly, talked about in our agenda change request policy. I think that this is a pretty important issue, and I think that we should take it up. I'm going to support this.
Thank you, Jake. And I don't see any other hands up. I'd like to make a quick announcement here, or just to let board members know, if number 2 passes, if ACR number 2 passes, ACR number 3 will also be accepted as a proposal based on the board's policy, which states if the board accepts an agenda change request, the board will develop and consider proposals for all agenda change requests for those specified regulations. If number 2 fails, a motion is needed to take number 3 based on the previous discussions on the action, unless the board or a member thinks it needs to be discussed. So just letting board members know how that's going to work, since number 3 is a very similar proposal.
Call a question, Mr. Chairman.
Question's been called.
Okay, on the motion to accept ACR number 2, Mr. Loring,
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Member Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Batchel,
Yes.
and Chairman Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Barrett.
No.
That motion carries by vote of 5 yeas to 1 nay. 1 member absent, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Christy. And so to go back to what I just mentioned to the board members, we would need a motion to take no action on number 3. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Al. I move to take no action on number 3 due to the action we took on 2.
And Mr. Chair, just to clarify, no action, but because that other ACR is automatically going to be accepted and scheduled for the meeting based on that policy. I see Ms. Brooking has her hands up. She might want to clarify that.
Yeah, basically, if we're basically passing number 3 because we passed number 2, but go ahead, Cheryl.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what you just said, that rather than just take no action, it's automatically accepted. Just wanted to make sure that that's clear on the record, but thank you.
Okay, with that being said, are we doing this correctly, or should we vote on it as well?
Mr. Chair, no, you don't need to vote on it. Your policy just automatically would accept ACR 3.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. So with that being said, number 3 is accepted as well per our policy, and we'll move on to ACR number 4. Ryan?
We have to put it to a schedule, a meeting day, a meeting time.
Oh, that's correct.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we see this proposal at the statewide meeting in March.
And just need a second for that
Second.
motion, please.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? That makes sense to me.
And Mr. Chair, just asking for unanimous consent is fine, and then that would be for both ACRs number 2 and number 3.
Okay, unanimous consent. Do we have consent from the whole board? If not, we'll move on to number 4. So this is going to be to the statewide meeting, Christy.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept ACR 4, change the Unit 18 Moose Hunt area boundaries of Zone 2 of the RM 615.
Second.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Natalie, and she'll have the next few here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Natalie Weber with Division of Wildlife Conservation. For the record, agenda change request number 4 was submitted to the board requesting to change hunting seasons and bag limits for moose in Unit 18. The proponent is asking the board to move the boundary between zones 1 and 2 of the RM 615 hunt in Unit 18. This would mean that hunters would have easier access to Zone 2, where the season is approximately 1 month longer than Zone 1. The department currently uses its discretionary authority to create the boundaries of the 2 hunt areas, and each area has a distinct harvest objective. With respect to the board's agenda change request acceptance criteria, the department is unaware of any errors in regulation. The department is unaware of any effects of regulations that were unforeseen when the regulation was adopted. The department is unaware of any biological concerns. The 2 zones within RM 615 have different seasons to reflect different patterns of use. Zone 1 has easy access and as a result, a much shorter season. Zone 2 is more difficult to access and as a result has a much slower harvest rate, which equates to a longer season. The department is unaware of any unforeseen or unexpected events that would otherwise restrict or reduce a reasonable opportunity for customary and traditional wildlife uses. And the department is unaware of any unexpected resource situation that would cause a biologically allowable resource harvest to be precluded by delayed regulatory action. The hunting seasons, bag limits, and boundaries for zones 1 and 2 of RM 615 were established at the January board meeting in 2017. The current framework allows the department to manage moose hunting in 2 distinct areas under 1 permit, which takes into account different access patterns and allows the department to maximize opportunity in both areas while minimizing the possibility of unsustainable harvest. The next regularly scheduled meeting for the Western Arctic and Western region is during the winter, spring of 2026 and 2027. And if the board accepts the ACR, the department recommends the proposal be heard by the board at its March meeting in Anchorage to allow for additional public input.
Thank you, Natalie. board members?
Member Fletcher has his hand up. Mr.
Oh, go
Chairman.
ahead, Jake.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to talk about the merit of this ACR, but I don't see it meeting any of the criteria, and I don't think I'm going to be able to support it.
Thank you, Jake. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I agree with Mr. Fletcher on the criteria. It seems to be it's a little bit allocative, and I don't think that moving it to the regular meeting in a couple of years is going to change much of what's already happening. So I'll be opposing it also.
Thank you, Dave. Al?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would, reading the AC's comments from out there, I would like to know from Subsistence if there is the current regulation does reduce opportunity for subsistence.
Thank
Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, Member Barrett. For this particular one, it does not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So if I could continue, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would concur with the other two board members. It doesn't meet our policy. And I was really concerned about the customer and traditional uses out there if it was reducing opportunity. So I won't be supporting this ACR, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Al. Okay, I don't see any other hands up.
Call the question, Mr. Chair.
Question's been called.
So
think I heard-
final action on that motion,
Go ahead, Christy.
on the motion to accept ACR number 4, Mr. Barrett,
No.
Mr. Hoffman,
No.
Mr. Batchel,
No.
Mr. Garner,
No.
Mr. Fletcher,
No.
and Mr. Loring.
No.
That motion fails 0-6.
Okay. Ryan, ACR number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to let Natalie run with this one as well.
Okay,
We
Natalie?
should put it on the table.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move to accept ACR 5, modify the resident, non-resident hut structure for sheep in Unit 19C.
Second.
Okay, now we go. Thank you, Ryan. I guess we're moving to Natalie. Go ahead, Natalie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Correct. Agenda change request number 5 was submitted to address 19C sheep, and the board also received agenda change request number 9 on the same subject. For number 5, the proponent asked the board to do a number of things, beginning with in regulatory year 2025 to close all general season sheep hunts and the youth hunt in 19C, but keep open the Unit 19C winter subsistence registration hunt RS 380. Next is to follow the RY 25 closure, establish a temporary 2-year drawing permit hunt for regulatory years 26 and 27, with 80% of the drawing permits allocated to residents and 20% to non-residents, and within that, a 5% cap for secondary of kindred non-resident hunters. Sheep taken by non-residents hunting with resident relatives would count toward the bag limit of the accompanying resident relative. It would also establish a Unit 19C as the pilot program for the guide concession program, with implementation in place for a guided opportunity occurring in Unit 19C starting in RY 28. And if the guide concession program is in place for Unit 19C and RY 28, all general season sheep hunts will reopen with a harvest ticket and full curl management. So we do have some hunting opportunity laid out for you in a table in our department response, which is posted on the website for anybody that has it. So there's this agenda change request is asking for quite a bit of changes to 19C sheep management, which is contingent on some other factors. So in regards to the board's agenda change request acceptance criteria, the department is unaware of any errors in regulation. The department is unaware of any effects of regulations that were unforeseen when the regulation was adopted. And for biological concerns, sheep trend counts in Unit 19C indicate there was a large decline in total sheep numbers beginning the winter of 2018 and 2019. And surveys in 2024 show continued low numbers, and this trend is largely thought to be based on winter weather events. In response to public concerns over sheep populations, the board formed a Unit 19C sheep working group to address sheep management in Unit 19C, of which this agenda change request is a result. And the department is unaware of any unforeseen or unexpected events that would otherwise restrict or reduce reasonable opportunity for customary and traditional wildlife uses. And the department is unaware of any unexpected resource situation that would cause a biologically allowable resource harvest to be precluded by delayed regulatory action. And as written, this ACR would institute regulatory action that would preclude a biologically allowable resource harvest opportunity for RY25. Full curl management allows for continued conservative harvest of mature rams. And there is a positive customary and traditional use finding for sheep in Unit 19 and an ANS for subsistence of 1 to 5 sheep. A little bit of background. In March of 2023, the board adopted Proposal 204, which closed the Unit 19C youth hunt as well as all non-resident hunting for a 5-year period. The general season fall hunt for residents remains open from August 10th to September 20th. And there is also a winter registration permit hunt for residents only, starting October 1st to April 30th, with a bag limit of 1 sheep with 3/4 curl horn or less. And the take of rams with both horns broken, lambs, or used with lambs is prohibited in that hunt. And the structure of this hunt provides subsistence opportunity according to customary and traditional use patterns. Though the hunt was closed by emergency order in regulatory year 20 and has a restricted bag limit of rams only since RY21 due to biological concerns created by the harvest of ewes. And the next regularly scheduled board meeting for Unit 19 is during the winter and spring of 2026 and 2027. And if the board accepts this ACR, the department recommends a proposal come before the board at its March statewide meeting in Anchorage to allow for additional public input and so that the board can address it along with all of the other 19C sheep proposals that were deferred from the March 2024 board meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Natalie. Any questions from board members? Jake?
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my first question is to the Department of Law, Cheryl Brooking. You know, I know you under your tutelage, Member Hoffman and I were at the sheep working group. Did we do anything there that would allow us not to participate fully in a vote for this ACR, in your opinion?
Absolutely not. No, you and both you and Member Hoffman did not participate in the discussion or express any opinions on the ACR that was developed by the other members of the working group. So I know that there's been a public comment submitted that is somewhat accusatory, but I strongly disagree with those statements.
Hey, thank you very much, Cheryl. And can I continue, Member Hoffman or Chairman Hoffman?
Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, thanks. I guess my 2 cents on this is, you know, the board got together. We asked for a group to be formed. You know, things don't happen overnight. Everything has taken some time, but I really do think this working group has, with Herculean effort from the department, from members of the public, from everybody, pulled together, set all their stuff aside, all their important duties that they have to do in life aside to produce a product here. And I know it didn't get submitted in time to be, accepted regularly. But I think this is one of those, circumstances where I'm definitely going to support this ACR. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jake. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo Jake's comments about the hard work and the effort and the time away from home that the working group did put. I listened to, via streaming both meetings, and really appreciate them stepping forward and actually coming up with a set of goals to work towards and what came out with the ACR. I do think that there are several of the deferred proposals for 19C that are coming up at this next statewide meeting, that we can take those recommendations that are in this ACR and amend them into those proposals, because I don't think the ACR itself actually meets the criteria in front of us. but every single one of their recommendations is important and very pointedly would help the sheep population and the direction we're going, but they can be put into place in some of those deferred proposals, I think, and we'll get the exact same result that way.
Thank you, Dave. Any other comments from board members? Al?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would put on the record that at least one AC commented on this and they were opposed to this ACR. I feel it's highly allocative and as member Loring had said, there's at least one proposal that's been deferred to the statewide meeting from our last meeting. That is very, very closely or very similar to what the working group came up with. So I think we do have a proposal before us that could address some of the concerns that the sheep working group came up with. So I'll be voting no on this ACR, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Al. Jake?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification in reading through the ACRs and the policy you referred to previously, does this acceptance of ACR number 5 also mean acceptance of ACR number 9?
It will, and I was getting ready to read that to remind everyone
Okay.
about that since it's so similar. Go ahead, Jake.
That was it. Just
Okay.
clarification.
Well, I'll take that moment to kind of give us a little brief on that. So for board members, if ACR number 9 passes, it will, if ACR number 5 passes, ACR number 9 will also be accepted as a proposal based on the board's policy, which states if the board accepts an agenda change request, the board will develop and consider proposals for all agenda change requests for those specified regulations. If number 9 fails, take no action unless a board member thinks it needs to be discussed. So thank you, Jake, for reminding that. And I don't see any of their hands up, but I'm going to weigh in on this one. I was on the working group. I strongly agree with Member Fletcher's comments. And, just from what I heard already from some of the other board members, I don't see it as allocative. We got a year here that there's going to be no hunting. That's so to me, if this goes through and passes, of course. But so I'm in support of this. And to add a little more, we formed a group with this in mind, knowing this was the intent. And I think if we don't support this, given all that, it's going to be very disingenuous. And I strongly feel that all the hard work the department and the public and the committee put into this, and the fact that I think it has the merit to qualify as an ACR, I'll be in support of this. Any other questions from board members?
Call the question, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Al. Questions been called?
All
Christy?
right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Call the roll for the motion to accept ACR 5, starting with Mr. Loring,
No.
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Bachel,
Yes.
Mr. Barrett,
No.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
That motion carries by a vote of 4 yeas to 2 nays.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to accept ACR 6, define the beginning and the terminus of the.
Hold up, Jake.
Oh, sorry. Apologize. Sorry about that.
I make a motion that with accepting ACR number 5, that we also accept ACR number 9, and we schedule them for the March statewide meeting.
We just need a second for that.
Second.
Okay, so now, was that Al, you said the statewide meeting in March?
Yes.
Okay, Christy?
And yeah, and confirming that number 9 also will be part of that based on the board's policy. And you could ask for unanimous consent, Mr. Chair, or yeah.
Yeah, let's ask for
Any
unanimous
objections?
consent to add proposal number 9 as well. Do I have
Yep.
anyone disagreeing? Okay, Christy, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept ACR 6 to find the beginning and the terminus of the 9 Mile Trail in the Lod River Controlled Use Area.
Second, and it's Ladue.
Ladue. I'm used to seeing an X at the end of Ladue. I'm from Ruby Doo up here, Ruby Doo Creek up the road.
All right, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna let Natalie handle this one, and then I'll finish up the last couple.
Go ahead, Natalie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Agenda change request number 6 was submitted by the Alaska Wildlife Troopers, asking the board to define the beginning and terminus of the 9 Mile Trail in the Ladue River Controlled Use Area. And this would clarify for hunters where ATV use is allowed within the controlled use area and would give the Alaska Wildlife Troopers the ability to enforce the regulation as intended by the board. With respect to the board's acceptance criteria, the department is unaware of any errors in regulation. At the time the board adopted the existing regulation, there was little ATV traffic on the 9 Mile Trail within the controlled use area. After such time that the board adopted the regulation, the amount of traffic has increased, and as a result, trail use has extended well beyond where the original trail ended when the controlled use area was created. The department is unaware of any biological concerns. And the ACR is requesting a clarification of the current regulation. The expanded use beyond the original trail extent approved in current regulation did not exist at the time the board adopted this regulation, and therefore the department is unaware of any unforeseen or unexpected events that would otherwise restrict or reduce a reasonable opportunity for customary and traditional wildlife uses. The department is unaware of any unexpected resource situation that would cause a biologically allowable resource harvest to be precluded by delayed regulatory action. The requested change will provide a clear start and end to the trail, which will allow ATV users to know where they can lawfully use motorized vehicles within the controlled use area, and will allow the Alaska Wildlife Troopers to enforce the regulation. And the next regularly scheduled board meeting for the area is during winter spring of 2026 and 2027. And if the board accepts the ACR, the department recommends the proposal come before the board at its March meeting in Anchorage. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Natalie. Questions from board members? Comments? Al?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask Major Frenzel, has wildlife enforcement been able to enforce that trail system out there?
Thank you. For the record, this is Aaron Frenzel, Alaska Wildlife Troopers, through the chair, Member Barrett. We can't enforce it right now. Currently, ADF&G has marked a sign in the trail that says this is the end of the trail. But since the trail continues on, we have traditional hunters out there that stop at the trail. 4-wheelers are going by them, asking us to enforce it. We just can't, the way it's written.
All right, thank you, Major. I'll continue on, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would support this as an ACR, or accept it as an ACR. I think this would give clarity to both the wildlife enforcement and to the public using the trail system. So, there won't be any more issues out there.
Thank you, Al. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I agree with Al's thoughts behind this ACR. I know enforcement has to be able to do their job, and the public's looking at us, and those folks that are trying to get away with it looking at us too. So if we can get this straightened out and get a firm line in place, firm definition of what that trail is, that's really important. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Dave. Al?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just add one more thing. There was one AC that did comment on it and they did support it. So I'd just like to build a record with that. And if nobody has any other comments, I would call the question.
Thank you, Al. I don't see any other hands up. Christy, do you?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, question's been called.
Right, I'll go ahead and call the roll, Mr. Chair, starting with Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Loring,
Yes.
Mr. Barrett,
Yes.
Mr. Garner,
Yes.
was that sorry, it was a little jarbled on my end. Was that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Batchel
Yes.
and Chairman Hoffman.
Yes.
That motion carries by a vote of six yeas to 0 nays.
Okay. Where do we want to hear
And
this?
then the board will just need to schedule that for one of the meetings, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have them. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we schedule that ACR that was just accepted to the March meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Christy?
And yep, if the board, just asking for unanimous consent, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Unanimous consent for that? I don't see anyone disagreeing.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Christy.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept ACR 7, change the opening date of moose hunting in Unit 22B remainder from September 1st to September 6th.
Second.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda change request 7 has been submitted to the Alaska Board of Game requesting changes to hunting seasons and bag limits for moose in Unit 22B remainder, which is west of the Darby Mountains, to open and close later in September. This would mean that the resident open season under registration permit RM 840 would change from September 1st through September 14th to September 6th to September 20th in Unit 22B remainder. With respect to the board's ACR acceptance criteria, the board is unaware of any error in regulation. The department is unaware of any effects of regulations that were unforeseen when the regulation was adopted. The department is unaware of any biological concerns that would occur as a result of this ACR. Moose hunting in RM 840 is managed with a quota system, and an emergency order would be issued once the quota is met to prevent over-harvest of bulls. The department is unaware of any unforeseen or unexpected events that would otherwise restrict or reduce reasonable opportunity for customary and traditional wildlife uses as defined in Alaska Statute 1605-258, paragraph F. The September 1 season open date for RM 840 may be better suited for hunters using off-road vehicles or ATVs to pursue moose rather than individuals pursuing moose by boat, because residents of White Mountain report that moose are in higher elevations in early September and do not move to riparian areas until late in September. The department is unaware of any unexpected resource situation that would cause a biologically allowable resource harvest to be precluded by delayed regulatory action. The request will change the resident open season dates for RM 840 moose hunt in Unit 22B remainder. The later season opening date may allow for more access to moose when they are more mobile, with pre-rutting activity for residents of White Mountain who primarily use boats to hunt moose along the river in the fall, and result in more equitable opportunity for moose harvest between residents of White Mountain, Golovin, and Nome as moose. The next regularly scheduled board meeting for the Western Arctic Western region is during winter spring 2026-2027. If the board accepts this ACR, the department recommends the proposal come before the board at its January 2025 meeting in Wasilla to allow for more public input. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ryan. Board members? Al and then Jake. We'll go with Al.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm inclined not to support this ACR. I think even with that small 5 days changing date, they still have a 30-day season in January that also provides opportunity in 22B remainder for moose. So I don't see how this meets the criteria for accepting an ACR, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Jake?
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to kind of echo member Brett's thoughts there. I don't think I'm going to support this ACR. I don't want to talk about the merits of this particular proposal, but I'm not going to support it.
Thank you, Jake. Christy, do you see any other hands up for number 8?
I do not, Mr.
Call the
Chair.
question, Mr. Chairman.
Question's been called.
On the motion to accept ACR number 7, Mr. Barrett,
No.
Mr. Loring,
No.
Mr. Fletcher,
No.
Mr. Garner,
No.
and Mr. Batchel,
No.
Chairman Hoffman.
Yeah, for the record, it's ACR number 8 and no.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mhm.
That motion fails by a vote of 0 to 6.
Okay, thank you, Christy. And looks like we worked our way through all the ACRs. Christy?
Well, Mr. Scott has his hand up, but go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that was ACR 7, and we still have ACR 8 to bring to the table.
That is correct. Yep, I scrolled past it, so.
Hey,
how do I-
Mr. Chairman, I move that we take no action on ACR 8 because of our action we took on ACR 7.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Christy, did we fix my mistake?
I'm good with that being, that was that last roll call vote was on ACR number 7. And now the motion is for no action on number 8 because they're basically the same regulations. So the process, Mr. Chair, would be for you to ask for unanimous consent for that motion.
Board members, do we have unanimous consent? Al?
I would just like to get clarification from the Department of Law. It is talking about, 22B remainder, but the 7 was talking about dates and ACR 8's talking about number of permits. And I'm comfortable with my second, but if looking at it and thinking back on it, I think they're kind of different.
Cheryl?
Through the chair, Member Barrett. Yeah, it's really how the board members feel about this one because they are a little bit different, but both of them deal with moose hunting and 22B remainder. So it's however the board members feel, whether you see that altering the moose hunts and 22B remainder should wait until it's in cycle, or if you feel that this one is significantly different from the one that just failed, then you can move forward with this one. And these things should be explained on the record today, however you decide to go.
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. And I'm comfortable with that too. With what's on the table right now. So if nobody else has an objection that, Stosh can continue on.
Any objections from any of the board members for what was just discussed about whether ACR number 8 is the same as 7 in regards to the ACR process?
Yeah, I'll just add to that for the record, Mr. Chairman, that there is a difference, like I made note of. One's talking about permits and one's talking about length of season, but they're very similar. They're dealing with moose hunting in 22B remainder, and that's why I'm comfortable with the actions that we're taking currently.
Thank you, Al. So Christy, I don't see anyone objecting to unanimous consent.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. I will record that as the action.
Thank you. Okay, Board members, that concludes the ACRs. I think we've addressed them all through number 9, which is going to move us to number 3, other business.
And
Ryan,
Mr.
go ahead, Christy.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, and just in case you members of the public joined us later and missed the action on ACR 5, ACR 9 is, it has been accepted by the board based on the board's policy. So that's why you're not bringing it up right following ACR number 8. And then it looked like Mr. Gardner had his hand up for a question, perhaps.
Oh, sorry. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Chair. Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Christy. So again, we've addressed them all. And again, like Christy said, number 9 is on there because we had unanimous consent when we took up proposal number 5. So with that being said, it brings us to item number 3 on the agenda, which is other business. And I have Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the time to bring this to the board's attention and get some guidance from the board. You were provided some correspondence that we've had with a couple members of the public in the last couple of weeks concerning the Delta controlled use area, non-resident sheep drawing permits. The issue that has arisen is, as written, the proposal indicated that the number of permits available for the early and late seasons would be evenly distributed. Basically just cut them in half for non-resident sheep hunters. And X would go to the early season, X would go to the late season. In practice, over the last several years, what we have done is alternated between the early season and the late season. So one year, those permits would be available in the early season. Next year, they'd be available in the late season, and then we'd go back to the early season. The proposal as written did direct or seek to split these evenly between the 2 seasons. However, after further review of board discussion with that, it became a little bit ambiguous. Certainly there was indications, direction to the department to continue to do what we were doing, which is alternating those seasons. However, the proposal was, frankly, very clear to split them between the early and late seasons. We can remedy that. It's printed in the supplement right now in the alternating manner as we've done previously. However, we are in a position to remedy it. It's a very small number of hunters, and they also will be guided. They're guided hunters. We just are seeking some clarification from the board. What would you like us to do with this? And I do want to say I'm very appreciative that members of the public brought it to our attention. Like I said, a little bit ambiguous at the end as we were getting through deliberations on this proposal, but I appreciate it being pointed out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ryan. Any questions from board members? Jake.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it appropriate for the board members that weren't in front of the proposal to comment on it, or should it only be the folks that were talking about that proposal? If I kind of look back at my notes a little bit on this, and my feeling was that it would be every year split up between an early and a late in the late season, not a alternating year. But that's just my 2 cents, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, that was mine as well. Other board members? Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question to Ryan. Are you able to split it up evenly, or is that going to cause a half here and a half there type situation if we do it an even split between the early and late season each year?
Through the chair, Member Loring, we are able to do it, and we're prepared to do it. We've actually got the process in place to remedy it this year. But yes, it's no problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members?
So Ryan, this is Doug. I guess I'm just a little confused what we're doing here. So we're asking for board guidance, not for them to schedule this for a board meeting. We're asking for what their recollection of that is so that we can then proceed as being directed by the 3 board members that were present during those deliberations.
Through the chair, Commissioner Vincent Link, that is correct. That's why I raised my hand. That's the proposal was adopted, and the focal point on the proposal was different than where do these permits land in relation to the early season, late season. So the proposal's in place. The board adopted it. It's been implemented. We're just looking for guidance, and I really would appreciate actually hearing that guidance on what we should do with those permits.
Jake.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that my remembrance of the discussion, I believe that we should split it up every year between early and late season and not alternate years, especially since Director Scott's, saying that it's not going to have a problem implementing it.
Thank you, Jake. Dave?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I remember I went back and listened to the audio of that particular meeting also, and I was under the impression that Fish and Game is going to continue to do it the way they're doing it. But I have no issue or no problem going to an even split every year, not only hitting back and forth. If the other board members feel the same way, I can go with that also.
Thank you, Dave. Al?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll agree with Member Loring. I think an even split is fair.
Thank you, Al. Any, so I think any board members, do all the board members agree with that, the even split? I know I do. Ryan, I think you got your answer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And thank you to all the board members. We have it loud and clear, and we'll get on it first thing tomorrow.
Thank you, Ryan. Doug, did you raise your hand?
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other comments from board members? I think we've kind of worked our way through this. And anyone else have anything to bring up at the meeting?
Yes, Tosh, this is Al.
Go ahead, Al.
Just for clarification on proposal 5, when we amended proposal 9 into it, we did get unanimous consent on that motion.
I believe we did. Christy or Cheryl?
One quick second, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a note that we have unanimous consent on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. Jake? Jake Arner.
Sure, Mr. Chair. Just for a clarification, was there a proposal that came late to the packet around the topic of allowing the use of night vision thermals, or is that? I saw that in one of my emails and I have it printed out as an addition to the package that it was missed as an ACR, but it was not included in the packet due to Board of Game Administration missing it. Is that?
Mr. Chair, I could address that.
Go ahead, Christy.
Oh, thank you. I did send a proposal out to the board members. But it actually is a proposal. It wasn't for the ACR meeting. It is one that that board support didn't get included in the book. It was received by the deadline. So it is indeed scheduled for the March meeting, and no action by the board is necessary at this meeting.
Yeah. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
All right, Dave, Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to give the sheep working group one more attaboy for all that hard work they put in, especially Member Whitson coming up with the gist of the ACR guidelines that he put in this ACR. So put a lot of work in that, a lot of heavy thought, and And I do appreciate everything he and the rest of the group did. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I agree with you that they put in a lot of hard work. They came up with some good decisions, some comments, and yeah, I think it was very productive, and it was a good meeting, a good working group. All right. Any other comments from the department or the board members?
Thank you. Board, appreciate you.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, everyone. Thank you. I apologize that I was late. My only excuse is I'm traveling, and I have a challenging time doing technology to begin with, but this just added to it when I was traveling. I thought I was ahead of the game, so I apologize for the delay in me being late.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, and if anybody else has anything else to say, I'd gladly stay these comments, but I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
And we don't need a second, right, Christy?
Nope.
Okay,
I
everybody.
usually take okay.
Oh, you do. I guess we'll.
There's usually a second.
Okay.
I second that, Ms. Dave.
Been moved and seconded, everyone. Have a good day and happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you,
care,
everyone.
everyone.
Yep, bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.